Today we are, okay. Hare Krishna devotees, thanks for joining on this beautiful Monday morning. And thank you for, attending the class and giving me the opportunity to speak. Today, of course, we are continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6 and Text 22nd. And I would like to seek your blessings so that I may speak something that is of value for you. So let's get started with the verse. Yasmat andam virad yagye bhutendriya gunatmaka tadravyam atyagat vishwam gobihi surya avatapan. So once more we can read. Yasmatandam virat yagne bhutendriya gunatmaka tadravyam atyagat vishwam gobihi surya ivatapan. Word by word meanings. Yasmat, from whom? Andam, the universal globes. Virat, and the gigantic universal form. Yagne, appeared. Bhuta, elements. Indriya, senses. Gunatmaka, qualitative. Tat dravyam, the universes and the universal form, etc. Atyagat, surpassed. Vishwam, all the universes. Gobi, by the rays. Surya, the sun. Iva, like. Atapan, distributed heat, rays and heat. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. From that personality of Godhead, all the universal globes and the universal form with all material elements, qualities and senses are generated. Yet he is aloof from such material manifestation, like the sun, which is separate from its rays and heat. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The supreme truth has been ascertained in the previous verse as Purusha or the Purushottama, the supreme person. The absolute person is the Ishvara or the supreme controller by his different energies. The Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation of the material energy of the Lord is just like one of the many mistresses of the Lord, by whom the Lord is not so much attracted as indicated in the language of the Gita, Bhinna Prakriti. But the region of the Tripad Vibhuti, being a pure spiritual manifestation of the energy of the Lord, is, so to speak, more attractive to him. The Lord therefore generates the material manifestations by impregnating the material energy, and then within the manifestation, he expands himself as the gigantic form of Vishvarupa. The Vishvarupa, as it was shown to Arjun, is not the original form of the Lord. The original form of the Lord is the transcendental form of Purushottama or Krishna himself. It is very nicely explained herein that he expands himself just like the sun. The sun expands itself by its terrible heat and rays, yet the sun is always aloof from such rays and heat. The impersonalist takes into consideration the rays of the Lord without any information of the tangible, transcendental, eternal form of the Lord, known as Krishna. Therefore, Krishna, in his supreme personal form with two hands and flute, is bewildering for the impersonalists, who can accommodate only the gigantic Vishvarupa of the Lord. They should know that the rays of the sun are secondary to the sun, and similarly, the impersonal gigantic form of the Lord is also secondary to the personal form as Purushottama. The Brahma Samhita 5.37 confirms this statement as follows. आनंद चिन्मय रस प्रतिभावताभिः ताभिर्य एव निज रूपतया कलाभिः गोलोक एव निवशष्ट अखिलात्म भूतो गोविन्दमादि पुरुषं तमहं भजामि. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the one who enlivens the senses of everyone by his personal bodily rays, resides in his transcendental abode called Goloka. Yet he is present in every nook and corner of his creation by expansion of happy spiritual rays, equal in power to his personal potency of bliss. He is therefore simultaneously personal and impersonal by his inconceivable potency, or he is one without a second, displaying complete unity in a diversity of material and spiritual manifestations. He is separate from everything, and still nothing is different from him. So that ends the translation and purport. And so we can get started now. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurube Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a very beautiful verse and purport, and we are going through chapter 6, Purusha Sukta confirmed, and this is verse number 22nd. So the main point of the translation which we find is that the Lord has created everything material, but yet he is aloof. That's the main point, that he is aloof from his material manifestations. And the example given is like the sun, and how the sun is separate from its rays and heat, and it's different from them. So that's how the Lord has created everything material, but yet he is aloof from it. And Srila Prabhupada has very nicely explained a couple of points in the purport. So I'm thinking of dividing it into 3 different parts, just because of the ideas, just dividing the ideas so that it would be easier to explain. So the first part of the purport really explains about the Purushottama, that the Lord is Purushottama and he's supreme. That was also explained in the previous verse, that is the verse 21, how the Lord is supreme and how we living entities, we are not really equal to the Lord. We cannot really be totally equal to the Lord, even though we may have some qualities, similar qualities, but the Lord is the supreme personality of Godhead. And then the purport goes on to explain that due to his different energies, everything comes into being. And also the explanation is there about the Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation of material energy and the Tripad Vibhuti, which is the spiritual manifestation of energy. And as explained by other speakers, the Ekpad Vibhuti manifestation of material energy, that's 25%, and the Tripad is 75% of the Lord's energy. It's also explained in the purport that the Lord is more attracted towards the Tripad Vibhuti, which is the spiritual manifestation. And as regarding the material manifestation, he's not that attracted. It's like the analogy is given over here, like it's just like one of the many mistresses of the Lord, whom the Lord is not really that much attracted, but he has created even that. And And we see, going back to the verses, verse number 20. So when we see this, we see Ekpad Vibhuti and Tripad Vibhuti. Okay, if we are part of the Ekpad Vibhuti, the thought comes to the mind, okay, if we are, how do we go to the Tripad Vibhuti stage? And some of the previous speakers have started explaining that point a little bit. And in verse 20, actually, Shatrupa Mataji, she beautifully explained that one of the things is that we are because we are attracted in the material world to family life and to sex life, that is one thing that is preventing us from going to this Tripad Vibhuti. So she was talking about the importance of celibacy, which was there in the verse also, and that is how we can transcend and go to Tripad Vibhuti stage. And she also brought up the point that, you have to have a higher taste, and then you lose the taste on, all the bodily conceptions of life. And so that's one of the ways in which we can transcend this Ekpad Vibhuti manifestation and go to the spiritual to the spiritual realm. And then in this verse, of course, the emphasis is more on what form of the Lord, personal and the Purushottama form. So, and then the purport goes on, of course, to explain that the Lord has through his has impregnated the material energy, and the material manifestation gets generated. So this is one part of the purport. So when I was reading this, the thought came to mind that Bhagavad Gita, actually a lot of our scriptures are talking about this particular aloof nature of the Lord, from how he has created everything, and he is yet aloof from everything. And this point also actually is emphasized in Bhagavad Gita 9.5. I'll just read the translation. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living beings, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. So the Lord actually it's described here that is Yogam Aishwaryam, or it is the mystic power of the Supreme Personality of the Lord, of Godhead. How he has created everything, like the earth he has created the universe, everything is sitting there, and planetary systems are floating about in space. And this is also the energy of the Lord. But even then it's said that he's different from the space. And he himself says that although they are situated in my inconceivable energy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them. So that point was made in the purport. This whole purport is about how the Lord is, the translation was about how the Lord is aloof. So this point is corroborated here also. And even Brahma Samhita also mentions an interesting point, 5.1, mentions an interesting point that Krishna has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. Basically, he's not like having a material body like us. He's having a spiritual body. And this particular verse is very famous. Ishvara Paramam Krishna Satchidanand Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. And he is Govinda, and he is also the origin of all, and there is no other origin other than him. And he's the prime cause of all causes. So going back to our purport, that is because the Lord has a spiritual body, that like we got the clarification from Brahma Samhita also. Because he has a spiritual body, he is actually attracted to the more of the spiritual manifestation. That's the highest level of manifestation. So the Lord is more attracted to that. Now we'll go to the second form of the purport. The second form of the purport talks about the Virat Rupa form of the Lord. So it's said that the Virat Rupa was shown to Arjun. The Lord showed that Virat Rupa form to Arjun. And in Bhagavad Gita, actually, it is explained in great detail that how Arjun was given this divine vision by Lord Krishna, and he could see the divine, he could see the universal form of the Lord, and that form of the Lord had so many different mouths and bellies, and everything was there. In the Brahma was there, Shiva was there, the demigods, birds, beasts, reptiles, planets, luminaries, thunder, and inhabitants of different planets. Everything possible in the universe, everything in the universe actually was in that form. And Arjuna actually even saw his relatives being consumed in the mouth of the Lord, like the Dhritarashtra, Drona, and Karna, and that form of the Lord was even lit like thousands of suns and had many weapons. But Arjuna became very scared, and he said, it's very nice that the Virat Rupa form is good, but I really want to see your four-handed form, and then your two-handed form. And of course, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the previous verses, we have Virat Rupa has been, form of the Lord has been discussed in great detail, how Garbhodakshai, Vishnu's limbs generate the various ingredients for the universe. So in that way, the Virat Rupa form has been described in great detail in the previous verses, like just giving you an example, that the bones generate mountains, bellies, the oceans, and so different parts like the hair and the beard generate the ingredients for the clouds. So with great detail, it is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. But at the end of it, the conclusion is that the two-handed form of the Lord is the most confidential. And this is also actually explained in the Bhagavad Gita 11.52, where it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, this form of mine that you're now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are further seeking opportunity to see this form." So this two-handed form is not an easy form to see. Firstly, the Virat Rupa form itself is difficult to see. You have to do so many penances and everything. But with the slight tinge of devotion, maybe you'll be able to see it. But the most confidential form is the two-handed form as Krishna. And so because it is the most confidential form, it is the topmost form of the Lord. And that is what is actually explained in this particular Srimad Bhagavatam verse also, that Vishwarupa form is temporary form. It is not the original form. And the original form is really that of the Purushottama, that is Krishna, and then he expands himself, like the sun is expanding himself. The Krishna expands himself, and throughout the universe. So that is an important point here. And then the third part of the purport really talks about personalist versus impersonalist. There's a slight discussion about that. And what we can see over there is that all the religious and theistic philosophies, actually they have this thing that, like, is Lord personal or is Lord impersonal? And we see that the people who practice the personal form of the Lord, they are very devoted to one Ish Devta, or whom they can meditate upon, and they can have do devotional service to. And of course, Krishna is the most supreme form. But the impersonalists, they cannot associate themselves to any form as such. So it's more like a Virat Rupa form, which is temporary, and yogis may meditate on it, or some of them will go towards this white light. They'll go to the white light Brahma Jyoti, and they will associate with, okay, we came from the light and we're going to merge back into the light. That is what their philosophy is. And or some think of, it's okay, it's all energy, God is all energy, and then there's this Big Bang theory, the scientists say, and but the thing is, it's not really proven scientifically also 100%. So the impersonalists, that's how there's always controversy between the personalists and the impersonalists. And the impersonalist philosophy is actually so difficult, and Prabhupada actually mentions that it's a very difficult path, and also it's risky because you may not really realize the absolute truth, because what happens is the yogis will go to the impersonalist form and they'll be meditating, they'll be doing om, then they'll be chanting om, then they'll be celibate, then their life airs have to come out through their head, and so many things, and then they have to think about Brahman, and then they achieve the Brahman, and when they achieve the Brahma Jyoti, again they are inactive sparks, and then again there's, okay, the soul by nature is active, so then again you have to fall down into the material world. Sometimes there's a risk of it. So all these things are happening in the impersonalist philosophy. So and Chaitanya Charitamrita actually very nicely actually explains it. It says that the foremost process of cheating is to desire liberation by merging into the Supreme, because this causes the permanent disappearance of loving service to Krishna. So it is atheism that is under the dress of liberation, is what Prabhupada says, and one cannot then do devotional service. So just because we were talking about impersonalism, I was Isha Upanishad 2 mantras came to mind, and quickly I will just read them. O my Lord, sustain. This is mantra 15. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to the pure devotee. So there's something that is beyond this dazzling effulgence. It's not the end all. There is Krishna who's behind, the personal form of Krishna. And then again, so the next mantra also says that please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. So what we have to aim for is the personal form of Krishna. We don't have to go after impersonalist view of Krishna. And also it was very interesting to me that we had some very elevated personalities, like the four Kumaras and Sukadev Goswami. They were also actually, in a way, they were impersonalists originally. But then what happened is that they became devotees of the Lord and they got to the higher position. And this is actually explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's 3.15.43 regarding the Kumaras. That when the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead entered the nostril of those sages, they experienced a change in both body and mind, even though they were attracted to impersonal Brahman realization. And the same thing happened with the Sukadev Goswami, but both of them became both the Kumaras and Sukadev Goswami, they came to the higher platform of becoming a devotee of the Lord. So when we go back to the verse, we see that Prabhupada actually ends with more like personal versus impersonal. So I thought that I will just tell you one story real quickly of personal form of Lord, which happened during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's one of the associates was Murari Gupta. And Murari Gupta, he was very attracted to Lord Ramchandra. And he thought that Lord Chaitanya was Lord Ramchandra. Actually, Murari Gupta, he was avatar of Hanuman. And he belonged to a family of Ayurveda physicians. So one day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to test his bhakti. So he said, Krishna is the supreme. He is the fountainhead of all the avatars. So you please worship Krishna. Give up the worship of Lord Ramchandra. And Murari Gupta agreed. So the next day, of course, he went in the night, he went home, but he could not sleep properly. He was very, very anxious. And the next day when he came back, he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that I'm feeling really conflicted because I can't disobey you. But at the same time, I feel that I cannot give up my worship to Lord Ramchandra. So I just want to give up my life. I'm so conflicted. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, no, you just worship Lord Ramchandra because you are Hanuman. How can you leave Lord Ramchandra? And later on, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said that one has to be fixed towards one's Ishta Devta, to the personal form of one's Ishta Devta. One does not have to deviate. And then even the Ishta Devta, it's good if the devotees are fixed, and then the Lord also, then reciprocates. So that's the important point. So we, of course, look upon Lord Krishna, and he, as Lord Chaitanya mentioned, he is the topmost form. I mean, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the point what I'm trying to tell you through this particular example is that we have to be fixed towards the personal form. We cannot like deviate that, okay, now I do this, now I do that. This is one Krishna, you're worshipping Krishna, then you have to worship only Krishna with dedication. That is what the point which I'm trying to make from this is. So also the Bhagavad Gita actually also talks about personal and impersonal form. And then it said, when Arjuna was confused that what should I do? Should I worship personal form or impersonal form? Then the Lord said that you could really worship either. But the thing is, as it is said in text 5, for those whose minds are attracted to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. And to make progress in that discipline is always difficult for the ones who are embodied, because it's risky also, because you may not get the absolute truth, as we already discussed, several points right now before this. And then, of course, in Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord says that those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered to be most perfect. So the Lord uses the word most perfect, actually. So that is why we should worship the personal form of the Lord. And why even our acharyas are saying that, this is the way that one should go, especially as we are in this material world, and it is easier for us to associate with the personal form of the Lord. We can pray to him, we can offer bhoga to him, we can dress him, and we can think about him, we can do kirtan, and there's so many things that we can do in order to meditate on the personal form of the Lord. So coming back to the verse again, so coming back to the words again, we actually discussed several points, and I'm going to just very quickly summarize everything that we did. Translation says that the Lord has created everything material, and yet, like the sun is separate from his heat and rays, he is separate from all material manifestation. Also, it's like the spider and the web, how they are different. I mean, there are many examples that one can think of, but really the example mentioned here is like the sun and how it's separate from its rays and its heat. Then we divided the purport into three different parts. The first part of the purport was saying that the Purushottama or form, or the Lord is the Supreme Person or the Purushottama, and he is the controller, and through his different energies, he controls the universe. And then it's talking about the Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation of the Lord and the Tripad Vibhuti manifestation of the Lord. And the Ekapad Vibhuti is the material energy of the Lord, and the Tripad Vibhuti is the spiritual manifestation of the energy of the Lord. And how the Lord is not so much attracted to the Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation, but he is more manifested to Tripad Vibhuti manifestation. And then it's talking about the Lord generating by the material manifestation by impregnating the material energy. That is the first part of the purport that we spoke about the energies of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, and the reference to Ekapad and Tripad Vibhuti of the Lord. Then the second part of the purport, which we spoke about, was the Vishwarupa form of the Lord, which was shown to Arjun. And it's not the original form of the Lord. The real form is Krishna with his flute and two hands. That's the real flute. And how the Lord is like the sun who expands himself, into the different rays. And then the third part of the purport was going to personalist versus impersonalist, where it is saying that the personalist, they look at the rays, like the rays of the sun, but they do not look like at the tangible eternal form. They do not look at the eternal form of Krishna. And so they can only fancy Virat Rupa form or some sort of a Brahma Jyoti, the concept, but they cannot fathom that Krishna is his personal form, and that's his most confidential form. And Srila Prabhupada then goes on to say that how the Lord is expanding himself through spiritual rays. And he concludes by saying that he concludes what the Vedic philosophy is saying. All the Vedic philosophy says the Lord is both personal and impersonal. All the Vedic philosophy will conclude that the Lord is both of them. And Srila Prabhupada very nicely then concludes towards what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya really we believe in. That is, he's separate from everything and still nothing is different from him. That is the concept of Achintya Bheda Bhava. That is the sameness and the difference of the Lord and his energies. And so that's all that I had for today. If anyone has any comments or anything else, please bring it up. So if there's nothing, then we can conclude. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for attending.